So this is how we wire Freaks3D printer. I took the bundle of wires from the extruder and I put it inside the wire sleeve that comes with the kit. I zip tied. I put a zip tie around the bundle here to hold it in place, and then I zip tied it in two places on the tube here so that it would wrap around the back of the machine to here. So in this bundle of wires we have the fan. This is the red and black wires that are already stripped and ready to go. Right here. And they go in this first slot right here. You have to use the little flathead screwdriver that comes with the kit. You know, make sure they're loose. Get them in there pretty far. Tighten them in. You want to put the red on top and the black on bottom. Positives on the top and the negatives on the bottom. You know, get them in there nice and tight. Okay. So that there's no wire exposed, so it doesn't short out in this area. Okay, the next two wires are the wires for the heating block. You'll notice they are not stripped yet. So you just take the clippers that come with the kit and you just lightly, just barely cut the sleeve but not the wires on the inside, and then pull off the end and then twist the wires so they're not flying everywhere. The outer sleeve is really soft and easy to cut, so as long as you don't get too carried away, you don't have to worry about cutting the wire on the inside. Alright, now that one goes into the bottom green ports here, these two, and there isn't a positive or negative, so it doesn't really matter. And I like to push them in there really far because this is the one that you really don't want to cross, because this is where a lot of energy is going to flow. And if they cross down here at the PCB and the terminal here, then things will short, things will melt, your nozzle won't heat, and it will just be bad news altogether. So make sure it's in there nice and clean, nice and tight, so that they don't cross and you don't have any bare wires crossing. Alright, the last one here, this is the thermostat. It's up there as part of the heating block. If you don't plug this in, you'll get the minimum temperature error on the little LCD screen. That goes in the bottom port here. Alright, you've got quite a bit left over. I don't trim them, I leave it with all the length, and I'll just use zip ties and bundle those up in a bit. Okay, so next thing you need are your ribbon wires that come with the kit. You've got E, your extruder, and your X, along with end stop 1 are all on one bundle. E, X, and 1. And then you have YZ 2 and 3. Anyway, I usually pull the 3 right off of there because it's kind of going somewhere different anyway. And 3 goes into this port right here. So you skip 1 and then you plug in number 3. And the connectors for the PCB and the connectors for the end stop switches are different, so you can't even plug them in wrong even if you want to, even if you try it. Alright, so we'll just go backwards here, and I pull out quite a bit. You'll see why in a minute with the way I run the wiring, I'll pull out quite a bit, and I put everything through the middle and have this come up through the center of those wires between the thermostat and the red wires we just put in. And then last we need to do number 1. Gun stop number 1, give it a good pull and get it untangled and bring it up through the center and plug it into right next to number 2. So you have thermostat, skip 1, 3, 2, 1, and that's going to be the PCB fan, and we'll do that later. Alright, so now I run all these wires underneath the board just because I think that looks neater. So this is what I do. You've got your screw hole right here where you're going to mount it to the base plate, and so I fold everything below that hole right there so that it's all kind of bunched together but well below that hole right there. And then I like to have pieces of electrical tape ready to go, and then I just secure them in place with a little strip of electrical tape, pull everything straight, kind of keep it as flat as I can, and make sort of a 90-degree angle with that hole right there still exposed. Flatten it out there, and then use my second piece of tape right here to hold everything in place. So now you're ready to take this big wire bundle mess and put them on your posts right like that. Now you're ready to go with the PCB, ready to start wiring the rest of it. So, got all this ribbon mess up on top of everything else. If you really want to, you can go ahead and put your copper studs down that are hiding over here. And that way it just kind of holds everything in place. Here's a 5mm nut driver to tighten those things up. Alright, now the order I like to do this in is X first, which goes right here. Then I like to put the E on the outside of X. Make sure everything's twisted the right way. And then I like to put Z and Y in there as well, which I have the wrong end. And then with Z and Y, I also like to put them on the inside of the post instead of around the outside. I just think it looks neater. So, we'll do it this way. We'll keep E and X on the outside, tuck them over the edge of the PCB, and then put down Y, and then Z. Okay? So you've got X, Y, Z, and E. E is for extruder. Alright, and then I like to pull the X over so that there's enough of a loop that I can tighten up Z and E, and then I can put a little zip tie between Z and Y and get all 4 cords, all 4 cables together in one little bundle like that. And the reason for that is, if you don't do that, then these wires will just gradually migrate out here, and then the wheel will start rubbing against them, and they'll just get tangled up and stuff, and that's not good. So now we're going to take the X wiring, or the, I don't know which one to call it, extruder X and end stop number 1. And end stop number 1 goes up here. I like to put it on the inside of the bottom of this post, because as it travels up and down, that post pushes it out of the way of the pulley, so you don't end up having the pulley rub on it and cause issues like that. So just gotta bend it and fish it up in there, and then once it's lined up, give it a good push and it snaps right in. Getting it lined up is the trick, apparently. So there we go, all plugged in. And then X goes right here. And then E goes right over here on the extruder, right over there. Alright, now I use tons of zip ties. Maybe you're not that kind of person, but I like to make sure my wiring stays where I want it to stay and does what I want it to do. So I put a zip tie here in order to coil this whole wire around, and it just kind of settles and then raises and then settles, and you don't have any weirdness, no unexpected looping or anything like that. And then I also put another zip tie right here. That way it'll keep all this stuff together. So now we're going to wire this back part here. So you've got Y, Z, and number 2. And Y goes here on the bed plate. Number 2 goes on the end stop switch right here. Like that. And then Z goes right around here on the Z stepper. It's controlling the vertical. Alright. Now when I tighten this, I try to leave just enough slack that you can unplug the Z connector, because if you pull it too tight, then you won't be able to unplug Z without cutting a zip tie or hurting your wiring or something. I also like to zip tie the hot nozzle wiring and the X and E wiring to this post here. And the reason I do that is so that when you put the faceplate on, it kind of keeps the wiring from rubbing on the faceplate edge here. It keeps it down out of the way, like that. Okay, so now we do some fancy folding here. But first, we need to get number 3 and get it out above all the other wiring and out of the way. And then we need to get all this red wiring and pull it over top of the white and fold it back. That's what I do, just coil it up and then pull this Y-Z axis stuff over there. And then I put a zip tie through the whole thing. Like so. And go like this. And get the whole bundle. Just like that. And that way, once you get the cover and everything on it, it'll all be underneath the cover and concealed. And you don't have to worry about it rubbing anywhere or getting in any places it's not supposed to get. And then you take your number 3 and you plug it in right underneath here to this end stop that's right here, just like that. So that is how I wire the electric Freaks 3D printer. And then one thing to note, your fan cover here sits on these two posts. You put your fan in there. I'd put it with the cable down in this corner. But note that if you put the screw and the nylon nut on this corner right here, it actually rests on top of this stepper component here. And so it actually applies pressure to the PCB, and this whole thing won't sit straight. So I actually just leave that whole screw and the nut off, and I just do these three. And that seems to work really well. Alright, now when I put the control panel on here, instead of having the ribbon straight, I put a twist in it, one twist, and then I hook that twist underneath this corner of the fan cover, and that helps it lay really nice and straight when you put your cover on. And you got to make sure it flexes good, and then you can line up with your holes here and put your screws in place, and then everything works out really well.